At my grandfather's funeral, my aunt smirked and said, "I already emptied his safe deposit box. There's nothing left for you." I thought she had won, until the lawyer smiled and said, "Actually, you took the wrong box." When the truth came out, my aunt's face turned pale. I stood by my grandfather's casket, my hands clenched into fists. I should have been sad, thinking about all the good times we had together, but instead, I was staring at my aunt, her smug face, her fancy black dress that showed off her wealth, and that little smirk on her lips that made me furious. She leaned in close, so only I could hear her, and whispered, "I already emptied his safe deposit box. There's nothing left for you." Then she walked away like she had just won something big. For a moment, I couldn't even react. My body felt cold. My grandfather had worked hard his whole life to build what he had. He wasn't super rich, but he was careful with his money. He had saved, invested, and always told me, "When the time comes, I'll make sure you're taken care of." And now, my aunt, who barely visited him in his last years, was bragging about stealing from him before he was even buried. Let me explain a little more. My grandfather had 3 kids, my dad, my uncle, and my aunt. My dad was the responsible one. He took care of my grandfather as he got older. My uncle wasn't a bad guy, just kind of distant. He didn't cause trouble, but he didn't help much either. But my aunt? She was different. She was always selfish, always looking for ways to get more than her share. She married a rich man, then divorced him and got even richer. She spent money like it was nothing and acted like she deserved everything. When my grandfather got sick, my dad was the one who took care of him. He drove him to the doctor, paid his bills, and made sure he had everything he needed. My aunt? She only showed up when she thought she could get something out of it. And now, at his funeral, she was acting like she had won. After the funeral, everyone went to the reception. I stayed behind, trying to make sense of everything. That's when my grandfather's lawyer, Mr. Callahan, came up to me. He was an older man, someone my grandfather trusted for years. He had a calm, knowing look on his face, like he knew something my aunt didn't. He glanced at her, then at me, and said, "Actually, she took the wrong box." I was shocked. "What?" He smiled. "Your grandfather knew how she was. He had 2 safe deposit boxes. One was fake." It took me a second to understand. So she stole the fake one? Callahan nodded. Everything in there was meant to trick her. Worthless old papers, fake stock certificates, and some old coins that aren't worth anything. I felt a slow sense of satisfaction. And the real one? He handed me a small envelope. "The details are in here, but let's just say she's in for a big surprise when she tries to cash in on what she stole." I almost laughed, but I didn't. I wanted to see how this would play out, so I waited. It didn't take long. A few days later, my aunt started bragging about all the things she was going to do now that she had secured my grandfather's money. She talked about vacations, investments, even buying a new house. Then she tried to cash in, and that's when the truth hit her hard. A few days later, my cousin, my aunt's son, called me. He sounded frustrated. "Have you seen my mom?" he asked. "No," I said, though I had a feeling something was wrong. "She's losing it," he said. "She went to the bank today to cash in some of Grandpa's old stocks and bonds, and they told her they were worthless." I almost laughed but held it back. "Wait, what?" I said, pretending not to know. "Yeah," he said, "she's screaming at her lawyer right now, saying she was supposed to get everything." I could only imagine the scene. My aunt, who always thought she was the smartest, was now realizing she had stolen a box full of junk. While my aunt was busy figuring out her mistake, I met with Mr. Callahan to see what my grandfather had really left behind. He slid a folder across the table. "Your grandfather knew your aunt would try something," he said, "so he made sure everything was done right." I opened the folder and read through the papers. My grandfather had divided everything, his house, his savings, his investments, but he had left something special just for me, a separate trust that my aunt couldn't touch. It held something much more valuable than money. My heart raced as I read. It was a piece of land he had bought years ago. Back then, it didn't seem like much, just empty space outside of town. But now it was worth millions. When my aunt found out, she lost it. She called me, screaming, "You stole from me." I took a deep breath. "I didn't steal anything. You took the wrong box, remember?" Her voice cracked. "But I was supposed to get everything." "That's not how it works," I said. "Grandpa knew exactly what he was doing." She hung up on me. That was just the start. A few days later, my aunt's problems got worse. Turns out, When she emptied the fake box, she had accidentally committed bank fraud. My grandfather had put fake legal papers in there, nothing illegal, but they looked real enough to trick her. She had forged his signature on some of them, trying to claim things that weren't even his. And the bank? They didn't let that slide. Before she knew it, she was under investigation. The final blow? The last time I saw my aunt, she was a mess. Her lawyer quit, her accounts were frozen, and she had lost everything she thought she had stolen. And the worst part? She knew I had won. She knew my grandfather had outsmarted her. She knew she had played herself. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. The look on her face said it all. And as I walked away, I could almost hear my grandfather's voice in my head, laughing softly. Some people never learn, I thought. That was the end of it, or so I thought. But my aunt? She wasn't the type to give up. A few weeks later, I got a letter in the mail. My aunt was suing me. She said my grandfather had been tricked in his final years and that I had somehow convinced him to change his will. She wanted the trust cancelled, the land taken away, and everything split up again. I wasn't worried. My grandfather had done everything the right way, but I was angry. After everything, after she had stolen from her own father, she still had the nerve to try to take more. Her lawsuit should have been thrown out right away. But here's the problem, lawsuits cost money, and my aunt still had some left. Not a lot, but enough to make my life difficult for a while. She kept dragging it out, filing one legal request after another, trying to delay things and find a way to win. But here's where it gets interesting. While my aunt was busy suing me, something else was happening behind the scenes. She had been living a very fancy life for years, big houses, expensive cars, designer clothes. She always acted like she had endless money, but she didn't. Turns out, after her divorce, she had been secretly drowning in debt. She had borrowed money against everything she owned, maxed out her credit cards, and taken out shady loans. And now her lawsuit had brought attention to her real financial situation. People she owed money to started coming after her. The IRS started looking into her taxes. Then, the final blow, her ex-husband sued her, saying she had hidden money during their divorce. Her life was falling apart faster than she could fix it. And then, the biggest twist. Remember the land my grandfather left me? The one my aunt thought was worthless? Well, she should have done her research, because what she didn't know was that my grandfather had been working on a deal for years. A company wanted to buy the land to build shops, luxury homes, and other things. And just a few weeks after my aunt's lawsuit started, the deal was done. The trust my grandfather set up for me? It wasn't just worth millions, it was worth tens of millions. When my aunt found out, she lost it. She tried to add to the lawsuit, saying the land deal had been hidden from her, but the judge didn't believe her. Not only did she lose the lawsuit, but she was also ordered to pay all of my legal fees. With no money left, my aunt had to sell her house, her cars were taken away, her credit was ruined, and the best part? The bank fraud investigation was still going on. She went from living in a mansion to renting a small apartment on the edge of town. She was completely, totally ruined. The last I heard, she was trying to start some kind of business selling advice on living a luxury life, or something like that, but no one was interested. And me? I was set for life, all because my grandfather knew exactly who she was. She thought she had won, but in the end, she only outsmarted herself. For a while, I thought that was the end. My aunt was broke, humiliated, and stuck in the mess she had made. But some people don't know when to give up. Even after losing everything, she kept trying to fight. She started telling anyone who would listen that I had stolen the inheritance. She tried to act like the victim, saying I had tricked our grandfather into cutting her out. At first, I ignored her. I let her talk. No one believed her. But then, she did something that went too far. She showed up at my grandfather's old house, the one I inherited, and tried to break in. I got a call from the security company in the middle of the night. There's been a break-in attempt, the guy said. The police are on the way. I didn't even have to ask who it was. By the time I got there, the cops had already arrived. My aunt was standing in the driveway, screaming at the officers, trying to convince them she had a right to be there. "This is my father's house," she yelled. One of the officers turned to me. "Sir, do you know this woman?" I crossed my arms. "Unfortunately." The officer said, "She says she has a right to the property." I pulled out my phone, opened an email from the lawyer, and showed them the legal papers with my name on them. "She has no right to anything," I said. The cop looked at the papers, nodded, then turned to my aunt. "Ma'am, you're trespassing." She exploded. "You don't understand. That's my inheritance. He stole it from me. The cop didn't care. Ma'am, turn around. You're under arrest for trespassing and attempted burglary. I watched as they handcuffed her. She was screaming, cursing, still acting like she was in control, but she wasn't. She was done. She had nothing left, no money, no lawyers, no friends willing to help. And now she had a criminal record. As they put her in the back of the police car, she looked at me, and for the first time, I saw it, not anger, not entitlement, but fear. She knew this was the end. And I just stood there, watching, letting her feel every second of it. After that, my aunt disappeared from our lives. She lost everything. The last I heard, she was living in a small, run-down apartment, working odd jobs just to survive. No more luxury, no more power, no more control. And me? I honored my grandfather's memory. I took care of my dad. I made sure my family was safe and secure. I donated to charities he cared about. I used the money the right way. And every now and then, I'd think about my aunt, how she thought she had won, how she thought she had outsmarted everyone, but in the end, she played herself. And my grandfather? He got the last laugh.